Welcome to the Hope Natural Health Podcast. I'm Dr. Erin Ellis, your host. On this show, we discuss all things health, hormones, and happiness with a little side of this thing called life. Glyphosate is a broad-spectrum systemic herbicide widely used to kill weeds, especially in agriculture. It was discovered in 1970, and it's the active ingredient in many products, most commonly known is Roundup. Glyphosate works by inhibiting the shikimic acid pathway, which is crucial for plant growth, but absent in animals. This selectivity is part of what makes it appealing for farmers, but it also raises questions about its safety for humans and other non-target organisms. One of the most alarming aspects of glyphosate is its potential link to cancer. In 2015, the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified glyphosate as probably carcinogenic to humans. This assessment was based on studies showing a 41% increased risk of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma among agricultural workers exposed to glyphosate. And this was according to a 2019 analysis published in the Journal of Environmental Health Perspectives. Now, I want to put my own personal tie in here that I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma back in 2010. And upon recent lab work, I do have higher glyphosate levels on my environmental toxin test. So things that make you go, In addition, a 2020 meta-analysis of several studies found that farmers exposed to glyphosate had a twofold increased risk of developing certain cancers, particularly lymphomas. Legal cases have highlighted these risks, with plaintiffs successfully arguing that glyphosate exposure contributed to their cancers, resulting in multi-million-dollar settlements. So, I want to discuss today glyphosate's role as an endocrine disruptor. So, these endocrine disruptors, which I talk a lot about on this podcast and with my patients, can interfere with our hormone systems like our thyroid, our adrenals, our reproductive hormones, which can lead to various health issues. So research has actually indicated that glyphosate can alter hormone levels, potentially impacting reproductive health, which is another concern for why we're seeing such an increase in infertility rates. So, for example, there's a study published in the Environmental Toxicology and Chemistry that found that glyphosate exposure resulted in significant decreases in testosterone levels in male rats. Additionally, some more research from the Journal of Endocrinology suggested that glyphosate could disrupt the estrogen receptor pathway, raising concerns about its effects on human hormone regulation. So, glyphosate can be found on certain foods, primarily as a result of its use in agricultural practices. So, since it's such a common herbicide in agriculture, it's being sprayed on a lot of our foods. So here are some types of foods that are more likely to be contaminated with glyphosate. Grains, probably the number one food source. So common crops like wheat or gluten, oats, barley, and corn often have glyphosate residues. In particular, glyphosate is used as a desiccant applied just before harvest to dry out these crops. Soy products are the next category. Since a large percentage of soybeans grown are genetically modified to be resistant to glyphosate, soy products such as tofu, soy milk, and edamame can have glyphosate residues. The legume category, which includes chickpeas, lentils, and other legumes, may also contain glyphosate residues due to pre-harvest application. Next category would be fruits and vegetables. Some conventionally grown fruits and vegetables, especially those treated with glyphosate for weed control, may have detectable levels. Common foods such as apples, potatoes, spinach, and kale are all in this category. Processed foods is the next category. Mainly these are grains such as cereals, bread, snacks. These all can contain glyphosate residues. Dairy and meat products can also contain glyphosate. So livestock feed often contain these glyphosate-treated grains, leading to potential residues in dairy products and meat. So if you see any commonalities here, a lot of this pertains to the Dirty Dozen, the Clean 15. So the Dirty Dozen has apples, potatoes, spinach, kale, all on the list. And these are foods treated with glyphosate. So if you stick to the Clean 15 foods that's put out by the Environmental Working Group, you should be able to avoid glyphosate levels. Another tip that I like to do, since I am at a high disposition for glyphosate toxicity, also due to my detox pathways, I have a harder time detoxing from it, is I reach out to companies and I ask about testing for glyphosate in oats. I avoid gluten pretty much, but you can get a gluten-free oats, but the oats still, although gluten-free, might contain glyphosate. So typically, companies are transparent about their testing for glyphosate and making sure that they don't use glyphosate-containing oats. But if you can't find that information on their website, ask them. Send them an email and inquire about their testing for glyphosate. So glyphosate, as I mentioned, is commonly found in the variety of herbicides and weed killers. So here are some other well-known products, including Roundup, that contain glyphosate. So we're all familiar with Roundup. It's the most recognized brand produced by Monsanto, now part of Bayer, which, correlating with Bayer is a very well-known chemotherapy manufacturer. So chemotherapy for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, glyphosate, Roundup, Bayer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. See the correlation there? But there's different formulations of Roundup, including Roundup Ready to Use and Roundup Concentrate. So literally, if you have Roundup in your house, do yourself, your environment, your neighbor, your friend, your daughter, your son, your soon-to-be maybe grandchild a favor and get rid of it. Rodeo. Rodeo is another brand. It's often used in aquatic environments and non-crop areas such as rights-of-way. Killzall, which is a non-selective herbicide used for controlling weeds in various settings. Here's one, very apparent in their name, glyphosate 41%, a generic formulation available from various manufacturers, typically sold in concentrated forms for agricultural use. Amdro Quick Kill is designed for residential use. This product targets tough weeds. Whitetail Institute's liquid fertilizer and herbicide used in food plots. This product combines glyphosate with fertilizers. There's also various generic brands. So many store brand or generic herbicides contain glyphosate, often marked as weed and grass killer. Home Depot, Lowe's, and other retailers sell these products in their gardening sections, which contain glyphosate under different brand names. So it's super important, just like your foods, to check the labels of any herbicide or weed killer to see if glyphosate is listed as an active ingredient, especially if you're concerned, which everyone should be concerned about, its potential health effects, as we mentioned above. So for testing and regulations, there's been various studies, including those conducted by the Environmental Working Group, that have found the glyphosate residues on many common foods. Regulatory bodies like the EPA set limits for glyphosate residues on food, but these limits are subject of ongoing debate regarding their safety. So if you're concerned about glyphosate exposure, your best and most tried and true safest regard is to choose organic, as organic farming practices typically avoid these synthetic herbicides. You can buy your foods from local farmers markets, but also inquire and ask the farmer and make sure that they don't use glyphosate. So there's been a debate for years over the safety and regulation of glyphosate, and it involves various factors that explain why it still remains legal in the U.S. while it's banned or restricted in other countries. So here's some reasons why it's still legal here. Regulatory assessments. In the U.S., regulatory agencies like the EPA or the Environmental Protection Agency have conducted assessments that have generally concluded glyphosate is not likely to be carcinogenic to humans when used according to label directions. These findings contrast with some international assessments, such as that of the International Agency for Research or Cancer, which classified glyphosate as probably carcinogenic. Number 2 would be the agricultural dependence. Since glyphosate is widely used in U.S. agriculture due to its effectiveness and cost efficiency, many farmers rely on it for weed control, especially for GMO crops designed to resist glyphosate. So a sudden ban on this product could significantly impact crop yields and farmers' livelihoods. Third would be the legal and political factors. The agricultural lobby in the U.S. is powerful, which influences legislation and regulatory decisions. Advocacy groups have raised concerns about glyphosate for years, but the political landscape often favors agricultural interests, making it very challenging to enact these bans. Then we have the public perception and awareness. So while there's a growing public concern over glyphosate's health impacts, awareness varies. In some countries, public opposition and activism against glyphosate have led to more stringent regulations and even those outright bans. And then there's the international differences. So countries like Austria, Germany, and Italy have taken a more precautionary approach, often influenced by the public, and regulatory frameworks and public health policies vary widely between these nations. So that can lead to different decisions regarding glyphosate. And apparently, there still needs to be some ongoing research. So the science surrounding glyphosate is still evolving. There needs to be ongoing research and debates about its safety, environmental impact, which may influence future regulatory actions, both here and abroad. So what can you do as a consumer? Here are some actionable steps. 1, research your foods. We already kind of talked about this. Make sure you look for organic products, as they typically avoid the synthetic herbicides. There's a study from the Rodale Institute that found organic farming reduces glyphosate levels in food by 90% compared to conventionally farmed produce. When in doubt, choose organic. Then you can support your local farms. Choose produce from local farms that prioritize sustainable practices. Many of these farms focus on organic methods, which therefore significantly reduces the exposure to glyphosate. Stay informed. Follow reputable sources for updates on glyphosate research and regulatory change. Knowledge is power, and being informed helps you make better choices. And then you can always advocate for change. So get involved in your local and national discussions about pesticide use. Your voice is so powerful to influence policy and encourage safer agricultural practices. Glyphosate really remains a cornerstone of modern agriculture in the U.S., but the EPA has stated that glyphosate is not likely to be carcinogenic when used according to label insertions. But it's met with skepticism from many health advocates and scientists who urge for more comprehensive studies. I'm not sure, but maybe me, as I could use my own health journey as part of a study, because I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I was treated with chemotherapy. I also still have higher glyphosate levels. I eat mostly organic, don't use glyphosate. So again, where is it coming from? It's everywhere. So I definitely believe that it is carcinogenic, and I don't even use it. So I'm getting exposed to it from whether that's foods, my neighbor, walking down the street, dog walks, who knows where I'm getting exposed to. But I wanted to bring it up because it's a very popular topic, and especially when things are banned in other countries and not here, it's kind of things that make you go, So continue to advocate, read your labels, choose organic when possible, and there's always testing for it. So if you're interested in testing for environmental toxins, ask your doctor. It is a urine test, super easy to do, and it'll show your exposure to pesticides, herbicides, more than just glyphosate, plastics, parabens, phthalates, all of the naughty things that we're exposed to that can be influencing your health and hormones overall. Hopefully this was a helpful episode, and I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below. And if you haven't done so, please be sure to give us a rating on your favorite podcast platform. Join us weekly as we inspire you to be your best version. For more, follow me on Instagram at dr.erinellis. Until next week, you got this.